Well, sovereign wealth funds may now begin to take more active roles in the companies they invest in. That's according to State Street Corporation, the biggest money manager for institutions. The 37 biggest sovereign wealth funds together are worth more than $3 trillion. Let's take a look at the geographical spread of these funds with John Nugee. He's the managing director of official institutions at State Street Global Advisors. And just looking at that pie chart there, we can see that it's very obvious that the Middle East is in control here when it comes to sovereign wealth funds, and yet quite a lot of the things they're invested in are in the West. So why is it that you're saying that they're going to actually take a more active role? Is this a direct result of the financial crisis, that they feel they need to be more involved in the companies they're investing in?
Very much so. The origin of the current stance of the sovereign wealth funds, which is a very passive stance, comes from a 2007 period where they bought into a lot of Western companies, particularly Western financial institutions. And you may recall there was press comment then about the West ceding control, very emotive terms, ceding control to foreign investors.
Places like Kuwait, for example.
Indeed. And the response from the sovereign wealth funds was unequivocal. They said, we hear your concern, we wish to reassure you, we won't use our votes, we won't accept the directorships which our stakes entitle us to. And unequivocally, that was meant as a friendly gesture. The sovereign wealth funds need the Western financial institutions to succeed. They are part of the investment in our markets. They benefit as we benefit. What has turned out, though, is that the crisis in 2008 showed that our financial institutions were, many of them, not very well managed. And one of the reasons for that, which has been identified, is that owners, shareholders, did not exert enough control over management.
And so in this brave new world, there is this idea that if you're a shareholder, you are partaking in it, and therefore you ought to be more responsible, if you like, for the company overall. So they're now going to have to step up to the plate, I guess, and take up some of these directorships.
It's not so much a brave new world, it's a return to the origins of shareholders as owners. Shareholders have always been owners, managers have only been their agents. What has happened is that business has become so complex that shareholders have delegated too much to management. And that is a friend of weak management. That is a friend of poor management, an owner who doesn't hold you to account. Many people, since the crisis, Sir David Walker's report, for example, which came out recently, have identified this weak control of shareholders, not holding management to account, as one of the reasons that our financial institutions indulged in excesses.
So how do you see this manifesting itself, then?
Well, so far what we have seen is that the passive approach which sovereign wealth funds adopted, and which I stress is because they thought it was what the West wanted to hear,
Indeed,
that has been shown to be not optimal. They do have to engage. They fully accept and fully agree with the analysis which most in the financial community have come to, that shareholders have an obligation to engage. The bigger question is how they do it, because there is a challenge that, on the one hand, if they are too passive, they are told that you're not engaging enough. On the other hand, if they go too far, they run the risk of going back into those accusations of interfering with our companies. The challenge in front of them, the challenge in front of all of us, is to find the middle role of responsible engagement without it becoming accusations of interfering.
Very interesting, Mr. Nugee. Thank you very much for joining us.